Hey, what's up beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. So आज का वीडियो काफी ज्यादा डिफरेंट होने वाला है। आप लोग को इतने ज्यादा टेक्स्ट आ रहे थे, मैसेज आ रहे थे कि भैया हाउ टू प्रिपेयर फॉर कोडिंग एंड सेट, कोडिंग एंड सेट की तैयारी कैसे करें, इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन कैसे करें, इंटरव्यू में कैसे कोडिंग क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, क्वेश्चंस पूछते भी है कि नहीं कोडिंग के, एंड जितने भी कोडिंग रिलेटेड डाउट थे उन सबको कवर अप करते हुए मैंने ये एक सिंगल वीडियो निकाल दिया है. This is a podcast of me and Sai Bhargav Sir. Sai Bhargav Sir is DSA Instructor at Newton School of Technology, Rishud University campus. He's an amazing coder and instructor out there. So I decided to bring him and clear all your doubts at once. Video काफी ज़्यादा amazing होने वाला है. Make sure you watch till the end.
Thank you, Sai sir, for coming first of all. I know your time is very valuable and you have lots of meetings and other things planned for us, for our syllabus. But still you gathered some time for this video. Here to help our juniors on how to prepare for NSAT or even how to start coding for non-coders. Starting out with how to start coding. So most of our viewers are non-coders and many have messaged me even from class 10th saying, Bhaiya, I have completed my class 10th. Now I want to start coding. I don't want to do JE thing. So what's your advice for them? They are complete non-coders. They have not done any coding. What should be their approach towards coding? How should they begin?
Cool. Thank you so much for having me here. So if I start about how do you start programming, right? Now, a lot of students before taking admission or in BTech or in general, a lot of students have this zeal to learn programming, this zeal to learn to build something, right? Using technology. Now, one thing that they generally have in their minds when they talk about programming is ki there is a person who will be sitting in front of a laptop with a monkey cap, and in the night he will be just keep typing something. And then when we talk about programming, a lot of students or a lot of people in general think that this is something where if I learn this, I can hack Instagram password of somebody, right? I can hack Instagram password of, let's say, Wi-Fi of somebody, right? But in general, how do you start with programming? So first, you can think it in as simple as that. Now think of how would you learn a normal simple language. For example, if I'm asking you how do you learn English, right? How do you learn English? You start with learning alphabets, and then you start learning about making that alphabets into a word, and then you combine all the words into a syntax, or let's say a complete sentence, and then you include punctuations in this, and then you include grammar, so on and so forth, right? It is also as simple as that. If you want to learn programming language, it is more or less similar to how do you learn a new general language, right? Now you can pick up, there are multiple programming languages available. You have Python, you must have heard about these things. You have Python, Java, C++, so many other programming languages, right? And which one would be the best one and how to start even with, right? If you personally ask me, and if you are learning programming for the first time, it's up to you. Again, you can pick any programming language. It does not affect anyways. But if you personally ask me, my recommendation, I would probably suggest Python, because it is something, since you mentioned that you got a lot of requeries from 11th standard students, so for them it would be much easier to understand Python. Okay, and once if any guy who learns any one programming language, it would be very easy for that person to learn any other programming languages. For example, if I'm learning Python, it would be very easy for me to learn other programming languages as well. And in order to learn Python, it's again very easy. So I would suggest pick any programming language of your choice and start focusing a lot on fundamentals. Okay, you should have this thing in mind, is your fundamentals have to be really strong. Whatever the advanced coding that you are going to do, that everything that depends on how strong your fundamentals are, right? So first pick up any programming language, and then how do you start learning it? There are multiple resources available. Maybe let's say if you ask me, there are multiple courses available for Python. There are paid courses, there are free courses. You can choose any programming, let's say any course from YouTube, from Udemy, from Coursera, from, if you are a person who would prefer probably, let's say, reading, not watching. If you don't want to watch and learn, if you prefer read and learn, there are a lot of articles available, right? So you can pick up any one of the resources and you can start with Python. Okay, you start with basic programming, you start understanding what is a programming language, you start understanding what is Python, you start understanding how to write a first program in Python, and then you slowly build all the concepts on the top of whatever you have learned, right? And that's how you can get started with Python. And don't take this as a subject. Like one advice would be, don't think it is something that you have to learn as a subject, right? Take it as something, as a fun, right? Always programming should be fun.
So do you really think the language matters? Because you mentioned there is Python, there is C++, there is Java. So even though you have recommended Python, still there are students, there many thoughts go in their mind. So do you think the language matters in the beginning?
If you ask me, language matters to some extent, yes. If you ask me, language matters in the beginning, I would, again, people will have multiple opinions on this. Personally, I feel in the beginning, the language does not affect so much, right? Because initially, what should be your thought process? Your idea should be getting your core concepts clear, right? And more or less in all the programming languages, concepts remain same. Okay, for example, if you are learning about let's say Python, and if you are learning Java, more or less the concepts will remain same, but just that how we are doing the grammar, the syntax will change, right? So in the beginning, I would probably say it does not affect much, because you learn any programming language and it's very easy to pick up and learn any other programming language. So in the starting, it will not affect much.
Sir, but here I would like to share my one experience.
Yes.
So starting, I also started with Python in class 11th and in class 11th and 12th. In our school syllabus, we had Python. I studied Python 2 years, and here Python again. But in the beginning, when I started for ICPC, so Badal sir said us go with CPP. It's faster. I switched to CPP, and again we were even learning JavaScript in parallel. So three languages were there mixed up together. So one thing what I realized and I felt during that time was, if a student learns CPP in beginning, then it's comparatively easier to switch to Python and JavaScript, because what I felt, again it's my thoughts, that JavaScript and Python, somehow the syntax is derived from the C++ itself. So I found that C++ is kind of mix of JavaScript plus Python. So if C++ is there, you already know, okay, C++ में ऐसा था, Python में ऐसा है, C++ में आता था, JavaScript में यहाँ पे ऐसा है. It's maybe it's comparatively easier वहाँ पे deep dive करना उन लोग के लिए.
Yes, very good question again. Now you have mentioned कि you are learning 3 languages, right? Already, in fact, a lot of people who are watching this, they must have learned, or they must have some sort of idea about Python already, right? Now, if I ask you this question, how much time it took for you to learn CPP, given that you have already good amount of, let's say, understanding about Python? So how much time it took for you to learn CPP?
Talking about basic concepts like variables, loops and everything, it took me, I think, 2 days.
2 days, right? So that is what I have been emphasizing, that it again depends on person to person. Some people may think that if they would have learned C++ first, Python would have been relatively easier. To some extent, that is true. But the problem is that a lot of students struggles. It can happen to struggle if they directly start with C++. They might struggle. Again, it does not mean a lot of struggle. But if you ask me which one will be easier to learn, Python or C++, I would suggest Python.
Sir, we talked so much about languages, this language, that language, this is good, that is, we didn't take any bad, but yeah, this is good, this is maybe easier. We talked about languages. Now what about practicing? They need to practice questions as well. What would be your recommendation for resources to practice?
Yes. Irrespective of the language that you are going to pick, right? You can pick Python, you can pick C++, you can pick Java. Irrespective of the language that you are going to pick, the idea should be more of practice. It's very easy to understand theory part, right? It's very easy to understand what is this concept, what is this concept, what is this concept, and it does not make even much sense just to understand it in your theory. I'm not saying that you should directly move to practice. You should understand theory, but you should not stop there. The main learning, most of the learning happens when you start doing it, when you start writing, when you start put your fingers on the keyboard, and when you actually start writing the programs, right? And in fact, that's how you learn, and that's how you will fall in love with that particular subject. Eventually, there are multiple platforms which provides the practice environment. If you're talking about beginners, you can probably go for HackerRank, right? It is mostly for beginners, where you have mostly easy level questions, or if you are a person who are just stepping into coding, the questions mostly in HackerRank are designed in such a way that it is mostly for beginners, and to get their fundamentals strong, which is again very important aspect. It does not make sense directly switching into very, let's say, advanced coding platforms. Just make sure your fundamentals are super clear. Once your fundamentals are clear, it's very easy to even get into more advanced concepts as well. Now once you do practice on HackerRank, if you ask me what other platforms in which students can practice in general, and in fact you guys also have been practicing from a quite long time. One, you can say Lead Code, one Code Forces for competitive programming, and also you have Code Chef, and also you can lot of people also use AtCoder, and also you have let's say Hacker Earth, right? So there are multiple platforms in which you can use. Again, users might get confused, what are these programming languages, what are these technical terms, right? So just keeping it simple, if you are starting with programming, go with HackerRank. Once you get comfortable with any one programming language, start doing either let's say Lead Code or Code Forces.
Now a student has started practicing. How much time should they dedicate?
So the question is, how much time a person should spend on daily basis, or let's say weekly basis, in order to get good at programming, right? Now, taking this question in a slightly different way, it is not about you learning so many concepts. It is more about, let's say, for example, in one day you are spending 5 hours. It does not mean that you have to learn 5 different concepts. It can also mean that you learn one concept, but you spend rest of the 4 hours just to get good at it, right? So focus more on quality over quantity. And on an average, it's again, there is no limit, right? It depends upon your day-to-day schedule. If you are going to school, or let's say if you are going to college, maybe you might not have a lot of time to do coding, right? And if you have some time, I would suggest you to spend at least 3 hours per day, right? 2 to 3 hours should work, given that you are already in, like, you will have some other activities also to do, maybe let's say your college, your JE preparation or board preparation, whatever it is. But in general, whenever you get some time, I would suggest to do programming. That's how you fall in love with the subject.
Okay, sir has said 2 or 3 hours, but I am a J student. I have been through that phase, so I know it's not possible to give 2 or 3 hours. But yeah, 1 hour is, I think sir, 1 hour at least they can give. That is the good.
Yes, but one thing, it does not mean ki, yes, as he rightly mentioned, you can give, let's say, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It's up to you, but just ensure one thing, that you are maintaining that consistency. Now, I think these guys also know the importance, how important it to be consistent, right?
Talking about consistency, sir, we have 100 days of code challenge going on, and honestly, I have been solving, almost my streak is maintained till date. So it helped me in contest today. Okay, we had a contest today morning of DSA, and sir, today for DSA, like for not the bonus section, main section, it took me just 20 minutes.
He rightly put it out, ki programming is more or less how consistent you are. If you ask me, if I wanted to reach to this level in programming, it more or less again proportional to how much consistent you are, right? So you have to be very consistent in programming, and that's how you eventually reach to a good, like
Many students are there who have heard the term DSA, but they actually don't know what is DSA. It's like before I also knew what is DSA. I also thought, okay, it's some big term, maybe big people do it, it's really difficult. But now when I do it, I understand what is there. But what can you little explain to them what is DSA actually?
Yes, this is something that the moment I heard this term, automatically the smile brings out, right? So DSA, the full form, data structures and algorithms. What is this huge definition or technical term that we will discuss about it later? Once you get comfortable with programming, right? Like once you let's say, get comfortable with any programming language, maybe Python, Java, C++, you move to next stage where you focus a lot on problem solving. Again, typically, let's say, what does a programmer do? What is the need of programming? What does this, all companies that you see around, what do they do? All these are problem solving, right? Like you take any company, what they do, they are solving some or the other problem. You take Zomato, it is solving some problem of getting the food to our home if we don't have the time to go out and get that food. You take, let's say, any other, maybe let's say Spotify, what they are doing, they might not be solving direct problem, but somehow they are giving some sort of entertainment to us, right? Maybe something like that. So all the companies that you generally see around, what they typically do is they try to solve the problems maybe by using the tech. So I am emphasizing on the word problem solving. So DSA is more or less, you have some problem in front of you, and how do you tackle this? There could be multiple ways to do it, right? Now in DSA, you learn about, you are given a problem, and how do you tackle it? What are the multiple ways to tackle it? And out of all these multiple ways, what is the, let's say, best possible way, right? Again, you have to ensure that it is not about just solving the problem. It is about how efficiently you are doing problem. And just to keep it in 2 to 3 lines, what is DSA? DSA is more about how do you tackle a problem in a best possible way. And in general, people think that this is something like next level term before they know DSA. And you can also maybe share 1-2 lines on how do you now feel after you started learning DSA. Now it's been about 4 or 5 months you started learning DSA. Now how do you feel about DSA, and how, let's say, how do you generally feel learning DSA?
Till my first semester almost ending also, I was thinking, okay, DSA is gonna come next semester, something tough is gonna be. It's this semester I'm quite basic. Next semester it's gonna be something tough. But when we studied, when we went topic by topic, each day we were just taking a small topic and discussing on that. I think that thing step by step, it helped me a lot to not like grow it exponentially, but to grow step by step. So it helped me a lot in like not समथिंग कि अचानक से कुछ हो गया फटा, लाइक अचानक से कुछ मुश्किल आ गया वाला थिंग. इट वाज दैट धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहा है. ओके, एंड आई डोंट थिंक सो आई हैव एवर फेस प्रॉब्लम्स. यू आर सो ग्रेट दैट आई हैव नॉट फेस्ड एनी प्रॉब्लम इन DSA.
Awesome. Glad to hear. I think there was a smooth transition in your DSA journey, right? It's not like we have directly jumped into hard problems, etc., etc., right? Awesome. And also, one more thing, why DSA? If you just ask me in one line, one is problem solving, other is a lot of tech companies in their interview rounds do ask DSA.
We'll talk about those things later in the video as well. So we talked about problem solving. In the beginning, it used to happen to me as well. I saw a problem and I'm stuck on that now for 4 or 5 hours. Nothing is just like clicking in my mind. It's completely blank. So what should be the approach towards starting this? How, like for example, if somebody is starting off with DSA, what should be the approach towards the problem in the beginning? How should they approach the problems, and later what should be the transition phase?
Now probably I would like to get a few answers for this particular question from you, because since you have been just passing through this phase, right? Now for you, if I ask you, how do you approach a problem? Before learning DSA, how do you approach a problem? Now how do you approach a problem? And how, let's say, if you see a problem, if you see any new problem, maybe let's say you take example of today's contest, how you are approaching that problem?
So of course, in the beginning it was like completely blank. It was little difficult to even recall, okay, what is this even question saying, what do even I have to use. But now when I saw the question, I already have the solution running in my mind. Okay, it's saying this, we did something like this, maybe we can use this. So yeah, that's my approach, that okay, I have done something like this in the past, maybe I can use this, so let's try this. That's the approach.
So in general, this is one good approach. In general, you see, if you ask me how do you generally tackle any DSA problem, right? You first understand the problem statement that you typically do when you are preparing for JEE, also very generic answer to understand the question. Now, once you understand the question, just try to do what is the, like, let's say, blunt way to do this. What is the, I just have to solve it. I don't need to worry about how I am going to solve. My objective is to just solve it. I probably not worry about the best possible way, best possible solution, but what is the basic solution that I can think of? That we call it as a brute force approach, right? So you first start with the basic solution. You start with, you have some knowledge in your mind that you have acquired in your, let's say, first semester or second semester. With whatever the knowledge you have, you try to solve that question. But that might not be the best possible solution, and then you try to apply the concepts. You try to observe something in the question, you try to recall the concept that you have studied, and you will see which concept you can apply probably for this particular question, right? So first step would be, you try to understand the question. Second, your aim will be just trying to solve that question irrespective of whether it's a best solution or not. 3, now, once you are done with the brute force approach, you try to think, can I do something better? I have solved this question, but can I solve the question, maybe let's say with better optimizations, right? Can I solve this particular problem with the best possible way? And then you try to think about the algorithms that you already learned. You try to think about the data structures that you learned, and you will try to see which algorithm or which data structure can be the right one to put here. And how do you choose it? You choose it by understanding the question properly, what they are asking in the question, what are the requirements, what is the time expected, what is the space expected, right? So on and so forth.
Yes, sir. I think same thing we did in class also, because many of the times most of the times I would say it happened that you brought 3 questions. One, okay, you have to solve it. Just solve the first question any way you want to do. कैसे भी करके दिखाओ बस तुम. Second, okay, let's try to think something better. Can we do something better? And the last one, the best possible solution. So 3 solutions of one question.
Right, and then we analyze which is the best possible solution, right? And that's how it happens. And generally for those who are viewing this, don't worry, don't think a lot about what is this DSA, what is this time space, right? Everything will become very smooth here.
Yeah, everything will be taught here. You don't have to worry. Okay, even if you think like what are they even talking, I don't get anything, it's fine. It's like for a non-coder, it's normal to say. It's normal, I feel. Now let's talk little about coding NSAT.
Okay.
From this year, NST has introduced coding NSAT. So if you don't want to give maths, you don't want to study English, you can just you know coding good. You can just directly give the coding NSAT, give the coding exam, and you are into the NST. So many of students were asking me, Bhaiya, how do I prepare for this? Because again, we saw the syllabus. It's quite basic for us at least, but not for them because many they have not even maybe done coding, but they want to try. Or maybe if they have done coding in school like me, like in 11th and 12th, but they are thinking, okay, what kind of questions may be asked, what could be the, like they have not, basically they have not even given coding exam like this ever. So many thoughts are there. What would you tell to them, like how should they be prepared for that, for the first time coding exam?
Cool. If you ask me how a person can prepare for NST coding exam so that their probability of clearing that particular test would be high, I would suggest, if you already know Python, if you have learned Python in your 11th, 12th, I would suggest you to revisit those concepts once again and try to learn all the, or let's say try to revise all the concepts once again and try to practice more in front of a computer instead of maybe let's say instead of writing it on a pen and paper. I would suggest you to solve basic problems, right? So maybe let's say start solving some problems on conditional statements, solve some problems on loops, solve some problems on list. I'm not saying just to stick to these particular concepts, but what I'm trying to eventually emphasize is ki try to revise the concepts that you have studied. If you have not studied at all, that is completely fine. You can learn Python very easily. There are multiple online resources that we have discussed earlier. Pick up any online resources, try to at least know the basics of it and try to solve few coding questions around it. And you can maybe let's say use HackerRank or any other website, and then you can solve basic coding questions around Python.
This is little different approach, I feel, that in, and when after a student has cleared NSAT, there is an interview as well, because in till few years, like 2-3 years back, I feel in India no college had interview for at least admission of BTech.
Right.
So what's your take on that? Like students are there, we know that coding questions are also asked sometimes in sometimes in interview. So like what do the students expect at that time?
Yes. So I will tell you the idea behind having this interview. Okay, as you told ki there are colleges which directly give you the admission, right? But again, what is the core concept behind having this NST? We have so many colleges around there, but why do we have Newton School of Technology, right? Why do we have this component of interview? And what is the purpose of having coding test in this interview, right? Two things. First, let's discuss about why do we even need to have this interview, given that there are hundreds of private colleges which are ready to give the admission without interview as well. Now, what is the core concept behind NST? We don't want it to be normal college anymore. That is very clear from the start. We want people who are motivated, we want people who are interested in tech. We want people who are ready to, let's say, put in extra efforts. We want people, let's say, who are who wanted to continue maybe let's say their career or interested in tech things, right? How do you determine a person is right fit for NST? So there has to be some component aspects. One, we have assessment that almost every college will have. Now even we wanted to understand a student even better. We wanted to understand a student in a much deeper level, right? And also we wanted to be very handpicky while having any student in NST. The reason behind is ki we have, let's say, some thousands and thousands of applicants who are applying for NST and who are very interested in NST, but unfortunately a lot of them do not get chance to join NST. Why? Because always we have the option to give let's say admission to everybody, right? But that will not solve the core purpose of NST, what we are trying to build here. We wanted to be very choosy of the students. We wanted to have the students who are, let's say, who have that zeal to do something in their life, that zeal to do something big in their life, right? And who are motivated and so on and so forth. Now, why coding test? Because again, once you enter into NST, more or less you are going to focus a lot on programming, lot on coding, right? So it would be very beneficial if a student already have some knowledge on coding. It will help probably, let's say, for him to get better grasp on once he joins NST, and he can also, let's say, do more stuff as well if he already have the prior knowledge of what he is going to study.
Listening this, don't be worried. Even if you don't know coding, it's fine. It's not a compulsory thing, but it's a plus point, I feel, if anyone has.
Yes, it is not compulsory for sure, because anyways, once you let's say join Newton, what is the first day of your Newton was? You have started learning with Python, right? So irrespective of you know Python, you don't know Python, you are a great coder and you have never touched it, you have never written any program in your life. If you are that person who have that zeal to do something in your life, and if you are somebody who is good at aptitude, you can still clear the test. You would get the chance to learn all the things once again.
So now talking a little more about interviews. Sir, you have taken so many interviews at Newton, for Newton, and for our mock interviews as well. While taking an interview, what are you expecting from us exactly? Because we don't know what you are expecting. We expect we are throwing questions, we'll give you a solution, that's it. But I think there's something more you are always expecting. What's that?
True, very true. So when generally we taking interviews, right? There are multiple aspects that are involved in it. Now, for example, I'm giving you one question, and you, let's say, solve that question, and it might happen that a lot of times you get rejected. There are multiple instances where people got rejected, even if they have solved that question completely. Again, because interview, when personally if I'm taking, I would probably not just to look on if he is able to reach to the final answer or not, if he is able to submit that coding problem correctly or not, but I would probably focus on how he is understanding the problem, how he is approaching the problem, and before, let's say, coming with the solution of the problem, what is his thought process, what are the thoughts that are going in his mind, right? How he is thinking, in which direction he is thinking. So a lot of times I do focus on what is his thought process, because eventually we would want somebody, and in fact industry also wants somebody who just not solve the questions, but who can be a good problem solver, who can think how to solve a problem, right? You are given a problem, how do you think, what is your approach, what is your way to reach to that problem? And in fact we also focus a lot on communications as well, and because it is very important. Like for example, you know something and you are able to code it, but how do you ensure ki you are able to process your thoughts for other person? It's very important aspect, right? So one is technical things, one is how his intuition is, how his thought process in order to tackle that particular problem, right? And we also focus a lot on let's say his intent towards to work in a company, right? And if I quickly talk about mock interviews, more or less the similar thing, more or less a lot of students do the same mistake of you are given a question, they try to quickly solve that problem, but eventually that should to be changed. Ki in mock interviews you guys should focus more on your thought process, conveying your thought process to the interviewer, right? And then you slowly take the interviewer, slowly you take from the basic approach to the, let's say, optimized approach, so on and so forth. Because when interview is being taken, there are multiple aspects that are being taken care. It's not just you are thrown a question, you are giving me the solution, right? So you also have to be very good at communication. And how can you be good at all of these things? Slowly, eventually, like here also we don't generally take one mock interview, right? You will have multiple mock interviews before you sit for any internships. There would be a lot of mock interviews that we generally take, and we also take mock interviews from outside mentors as well, right? So once you start giving mock interviews, first mock interview might not go very good, but slowly eventually you will reach to a state where you are ready to give interviews, and for that all the planning and everything would be happening.
Can you mention some of the common mistakes made by the students or even any person who is taking interview?
Common mistakes in general would be not getting properly prepared with that introduction. In general, people think they most of the cases, 99% of the cases, the first question that would be asked in the interview will be just introduce yourself, right? Just tell me your hobbies, what your education details, maybe let's say your interest, so on and so forth, your family background, etc. Now they think that this is the most easiest question. And in fact, true, it is most easiest question, but you have to be ready, you have to be prepared with that particular question. Always you have to process your, generally people don't process their thoughts before speaking. So first mistake that generally people do is not getting prepared with the introduction. So give your time, give some time, get yourself prepared for the introduction. And also one common mistake is process your thoughts before you speak. For example, you ask, somebody is asking a question, you should not directly, let's say, give the solution, right? Take some time, take a pause and try to think, let's say, try to process your thoughts and try to put it in a right way. And also be prepared with some questions to ask for the interviewer, right? And yeah, try to keep conveying your thoughts, how you are going to solve this one, how you are going to solve this one. So keep conveying your thoughts to the interviewer, these things.
I think, sir, same question was asked to me as well in an interview.
Okay.
First of all, first question was only introduce yourself.
Okay.
That was, and in coding also they had
Were you prepared for that question?
no.
See, so that's what I have been emphasizing, right? So that is the first question, and always it happens like this most of the time. If the first part of the interview goes smooth, you will get the confidence. It is similar to, you take any cricketer, and if he can make his, like, let's say, first 30 or 40 or 50 runs, he will get a lot of confidence that he can actually play more, right? And that's how happens for interview as well. First part of the interview has to go really smooth, then the rest of the probability is very high that the rest of the interview will go very smoothly, because you will have a lot of confidence in it.
Yeah, and I think the same question what you mentioned, that approach thing. I was asked a question, basic question on if else. It was if else statement, how far I remember, and I think I was confused in the syntax because I was not prepared that much for. Okay, it will be also asked in the interview. Then when they asked, I was little confused. Then okay, they said, okay, it's fine, you don't know. Tell me the approach. How are you taking the approach? And they left on that. It's fine if you not even solve this.
It is so, because eventually a lot of times if you wanted to see how a person is going to approach a problem when a problem is given, right? Always it is not about just reaching to the right solution. It is more about how you are going to approach that problem to reach to that solution.
Ending on the last question now. Sir, AI has been all around, and many people have been saying AI is gonna eat your job. English is the new coding language. No need. We throughout the podcast we emphasized on why you should learn coding, how you should learn coding. But people are saying no need to learn coding. English is the new coding language. Do you really think that AI is gonna eat the job? Because we are the software engineers. We use the AI for coding, so we know where it lies. It may be maybe it solves the problem of a Newton. It solves the problem I've given on my exams. But when we talk about the real world problems, when we give it something real product to code, it doesn't do that, we know. So can you just, what do you want to tell them?
Very good question. Again, it's going to be one of the debatable question. And if we enter deep into this question, the podcast will go plus 1 hour more. If again, every individual will have different opinions on this. If you ask my opinion about will AI take out or eat out all the jobs, I would probably say to some extent yes, but completely not.
That's it for this video. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I hope this conversation was useful for the students who are going to prepare for coding NSAT, and in general, if anyone wants to start coding, what should be the approach at interviews at NST. So I hope that was very much useful. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I really appreciate that you have just completed your contest today, and I am pretty sure you must have not slept properly yesterday night, right? And you have done really good job not taking rest, but instead you are trying to do something which you like doing it, right? Good, keep doing this. Awesome. Thank you for having me here. Have a good day.
I hope you liked this video. I'm planning for much more videos like this and podcasts like this. Do let me know what are your thoughts on it. If you still have any doubt left in your mind, do let me know in the comments below. I'll try to answer and clear all your possible doubts. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.